may feel that I'm not getting into the details enough. What I'm hoping to do here today is provide a little bit of an overview on farm animal welfare issues in factory farms. Talk a little bit about what factory farms do in the communities in which they're situated, to the environment, to public health in these communities, and then focus in on climate change. Just a little bit of background about myself. As much as I appreciate the compliment, I don't personally consider myself an expert in my field, but I would say that I'm one of many individuals who are doing more these days to highlight the connection between animal agriculture and climate change and other environmental impacts. And again, the way I see it, working in DC alongside a number of environmental groups, there are those of us doing this in animal protection organizations, and there are people doing this in environmental organizations as well. And so it gives us a really great opportunity to work together for a common cause. Before I get into the environmental impacts, let's start off with, again, a brief overview of factory farming in the United States. Every year in the United States, approximately 10 billion land animals are raised for meat, eggs, and dairy products. Most of these chickens, turkeys, pigs, cows, and other animals are intensively confined in what are known as factory farms. Now, just a note about terminology for today's talk. Factory farms is one term that you hear. Another term you hear to refer to these places is CAFO, C-A-F-O, which is an acronym for Concentrated Animal Feeding Operation. When we talk about this in the global context, factory farms can be referred to as intensive systems or industrial systems. So I'm going to be using all of these terms interchangeably: factory farms, CAFOs, intensive systems, industrial systems. Now, when we think about animals on farms, this is what most people, or a lot of people, expect to see. Animals on grass, on pasture. In stark contrast, this is what a factory farm looks like. Now, I would think that the first question that would come to mind is, where are the animals? Well, they're confined in these barren warehouse-like sheds. Farm animals in the United States are given virtually no protections under the law. There are no federal laws that protect farm animals while they're on the farm, and most state animal cruelty statutes exempt what are known as customary agricultural practices from the scope of their animal cruelty statutes. Animals confined in factory farms, they don't go outside, they don't feel sunlight, they don't feel grass. Some of them can barely move. And this is what some of these facilities look like on the inside. Over the past few decades, the trend in U.S. animal agriculture has been to intensively confine more animals in fewer farming operations, but in much larger farming operations. And CAFOs, C-A-F-O, those are the largest of these types of facilities. I mentioned that nearly 10 billion animals are raised for meat, egg, and dairy products each year in our country. 95% of those animals are birds raised for either meat production or egg production. And in fact, in a single hour, 1 million chickens are slaughtered for meat. Chickens raised for meat are referred to as broiler chickens. They are typically confined by the tens of thousands in barren sheds and prevented from carrying out many behaviors that come naturally to them, including roosting and foraging, just like other birds. The most significant assault on the welfare of broiler chickens is their unnaturally rapid growth. The poultry industry has selectively bred chickens to gain weight faster so that they reach market weight or slaughter weight sooner. And they're also bred to have unnaturally heavy breasts because that's what's favored in U.S. cuisine. The end result, as you can see, is what one animal welfare expert refers to as birds whose bodies are on the verge of structural collapse. the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture, in order to put their growth into perspective, has said if a human grew as fast as a broiler chicken grows these days, we would weigh about 250 pounds by the age of 2. Sorry, 350 pounds by the age of 2. Moving on to egg-laying hens. Nearly 300 million laying hens are used for egg production every year. Most of them are confined in overcrowded wire battery cages, and that's what these pictures are of. In a battery cage, each hen has less space than a single letter-sized sheet of paper to sleep, eat, lay eggs, defecate, essentially live her life. And the photo on the right is actually taken from the manure pit, which is underneath the tiers of cages. And I think in that photo you get a really good glimpse of how little space each bird has. Intensive confinement in battery cages, again, makes it impossible for these birds to engage in nearly any of their natural behaviors. Hens in battery cages can't flap their wings, they can't dust bacon, they can't forage, and perhaps most frustratingly of all, they can't nest. Approximately 100 million pigs are raised for pork production each year in the US. They also suffer immensely in factory farms. These are very social, very intelligent animals. They are raised in barren conditions with no environmental stimulation. And they're also subjected to, like many farm animals, subjected to painful mutilations without anesthesia. These are pregnant sows. Pregnant sows, most of them are intensively confined in individual stalls known as gestation crates during their repeated 4-month pregnancies. And these stalls are so small, as I think you can see, that the animal is prevented from even turning around. Approximately 35 million cattle are raised every year for beef production. Most of these animals also undergo painful procedures without anesthesia. And in feedlots, cattle raised for beef are fed a grain diet, which is not natural to the animals and can cause significant health problems for them. About 9 million cows are used to produce milk in our country annually. They endure annual cycles of impregnation, and they are milked by mechanized milking machines 10 out